And then all the workers in there were like, oh, claustrophobic. They were trying to get used to working in labor. I was like, I was watching how he was murdered on my DVR. I made it later. I do as much as I can.
What's going on, brother? How you been?
I know you don't remember.
Yeah, I do.
I lived in the MAC there. I played right before you, and I lived in the MAC when you were in grad school.
What's going on, man? How you been?
Running this event.
Yeah?
How you been? Look good in that coat.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good.
This coat feels good. Feels good to have this coat on.
You been to any games?
Last year, I went to 3 last year.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, I went to Georgia. And then I saw there was the Missouri game.
Not really. Yeah.
And then I saw him at the Rose Bowl, and I saw him at the championship.
I was straight. That championship killed me. That's how I've tried to cut back. I go to one a year. I try to do a road game now. I'm like, it's just so hard getting Athens. I just been watching on TV.
Yeah.
So I went to Notre Dame last year, went to LSU this year.
Okay.
I guess next year I might go to Vanderbilt. But it's at least Nashville.
They gotta have something.
Nothing on the road.
Nothing good.
Nah. But Nashville Labor Day weekend, there could be worse things.
They don't have any. They're not scheduling any powerhouse squads early in the season no more.
I think that after that we get A&M on the road.
Okay.
Nobody's ever really been there much.
Yeah. No, never been there at all.
So I've never been to that one, so I'm like, I'll try to catch a different venue every year.
That's
Notre
good.
Dame game was cool.
He was like, make sure they're not hurt.
Yes, indeed. You know what you doing here?
I coordinate and run this event here for the Super National. I've been doing it. This is my 26th year. I started doing something.
You've been doing, so you run, what do you think?
The Super Bowl experience out here. Yeah.
No, but you run the experience every year?
Yeah, this is my 26th year doing it. So I started as soon as I finished that year when you were playing in grad school. I had Coach Bestwick. I don't know if you remember Coach Bestwick.
Yeah, of course.
Coach Bestwick got me an
Bestwick was my
intern.
man. I went to go visit him Georgia about 2 years ago, maybe.
I was wondering, is he still alive? I
He's
mean, I
still
see
alive.
Whittemore every now and then.
Yeah. Bestwick is went to his home. He's struggling. He's got some health issues, man. But he was instrumental in me getting.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
He got me my internship. I got my internship with the Chick-fil-A Bowl, then, which was a Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
And then that led me to this. And I just came in like a part-time manager doing this the first year. And it just grew from there. And I took a job at the recreation department in Coweta County, or Floyd County down. And that's where I've been for 26 years. And the NFL just contracts me every year for about 8-9 weeks a year to fly to different cities, to recruit the workers, to run this.
Yeah.
So I get to do both. But yeah, that's the one that got me started in that too.
Yes, that sounds like him.
It's funny there for a while when, because I had a bunch of the boys I took with my town up there to play, like Ogletree and all them were my boys. And I coached from the time they were little, 3 years old all the way up. So it was cool going up there at the end because back then they recycled. Joe T was back in there. So I could see in there. I'd see
get up and run,
and Casey would come around. I just entertains me hearing him talk. It's good now. I'm not as connected right now. Because I don't have. I'm sure the next time a player comes through and Noonan down there, they'll call me back.
Yeah.
But it was good with Coach Rick, Coach Garner over there. I could go when they wanted to.
Yeah. So nothing with Curb? You don't go back?
Yeah, we're different age range because he didn't get there until after all of us were gone.
He was there when I was there because you left before me.
Yeah, I left. Your first year there was my last year of grad school.
Yeah, because I was there. I graduated in '94. Kirby was a freshman. Out of '94 squad.
Yeah, so my '93 was my last year.
So you guys missed.
Now Will though, Mustang.
Yeah,
Will was still know Will.
Will.
And Bohannon is over here at Kennesaw now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's
Brian Bohannon.
He's the head coach of Kennesaw State.
Oh,
Goodness, they got pretty deep in the playoffs, and they just started the program like 2 years ago.
oh, that's good. That's solid.
So he's doing good.
That's solid.
Kid that I coached when he was little down there in Coweta County went on to play at Georgia Southern, and he's coached high school. He just hired him up there on the staff. So I got several there. Kennesaw now.
Okay. That's good,
Some
brother.
of my boys want to get you to sign something. Okay, can you come?
Yeah, what they got? Yeah, bring it on.
Okay. Joe, y'all got a body on your thing? Yeah. These are some of my workers here. I recruit them in different cities, different states,
All right.
every year.
Yeah, man. How you doing? Joe, nice to meet you.
Hey, Joe.
Joe? Yeah.
Nicest guy in the world in college.
Nah, don't buy that, brother.
I don't know what he is now. I can't attest to him, but this dude in college is top notch.
Ain't nothing changed, brother.
That's what I always told everybody when you were going. I said, he will do well because he's humble and he's hungry.
There you go. Y'all just walking around with balls in the bag?
Man, we saw you out there, so we were.
I literally go through 550 balls for all these things out here, so I keep stored in my office right there. These guys take out in the end. We always have them left over. I'm like, "Good ball."
That's cool.
No, it's weird.
There you go. Yep,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem.
Pleasure to meet you.
You too.
You guys want my
Ready?
autograph?
Absolutely. I got a check right here. I need you to sign. Can you write it? Can you sign it at the bottom?
I don't know if that's going to get you
It's
anywhere.
good to see you, brother.
Good to see you.
All right, man.
Congratulations. on
Thank you.
everything.
Appreciate it.
If you come back around, you need anything.
I know where to find you now.
I remember one time you had to sit with New Orleans. We did that super play-by-play thing down there. You had to sit with the state youth play and then had one of these experiences in New Orleans.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
When you first started with two headsets.
Yep. Yep. All right, we'll see you. What we got going down?
So we're ready to go. Once Michael hits live, we'll be live on Facebook.
Tell my kid to call. I'm telling my kid to call in.
Did it go back? I think we just waited too long.
Oh shit! I get my ring.
Yeah, you're still connected with the back.
Ready?
I'm born ready.
Get this rolling. Good. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody here in Atlanta, Georgia at Super Bowl Experience for another edition of our Heart of a Hall of Famer program powered by Extreme Networks. Today, we're lucky enough to have Gold Jacket Terrell Daivs here with us live from Atlanta, home of the Super Bowl this year, to participate in this program. We're in front of our Hall of Fame gallery. We got Mr. Davis's bust right here behind us, live in Atlanta. My name is Jake Ray. I'm going to be moderating the session today. And before we turn over to Mr. Daivs, I just have a few thank yous and things about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Our mission at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. Those values that we celebrate are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence, all of which we're going to talk about today, how that impacted Mr. Davis's life both on and off the field. Some thank yous I'd like to say. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our partners at Extreme Networks. Without them, this program could not take place today. They do a lot for us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame and a lot for schools across the country. So we want to thank them for their help with today's program. So without further ado, I'd like to turn over to truly one of the greatest players to ever step on a gridiron, one of the greatest men of the game, Mr. Terrell Daivs. And you'd like to open just with some comments about the program, things you experienced in the game of football?
Yeah, well, you know, it's been a great ride. I think one of the things that people always ask me when I'm talking to them, they want to know sort of how did I get here? And that's it's a difficult question to answer because there's a lot of layers to it. But when I look at it, there was a couple of themes that went along with getting me here, right? One was perseverance, right? It was dealing with adversity. It would be accountable, take ownership, know what your goals are. Don't take no for an answer. So when I look at my career, I kind of narrow it down to all those things happening, you know, and try to have it where it gets you there, but you have to kind of focus on the moment. You know, like you can't focus on the Hall of Fame when you're 8 years old because there's so many things that have to happen in the meantime for you to get there. So what I do is I say, have a long-term goal, but have a narrow focus. What you focus on is your day-to-day living. It's doing things that you might not want to do. I call it eating your broccoli, right? It's going to school. It's working out. It's being accountable, having integrity. It's doing all those things that you have to do. Do the right things. It's so easy to do the wrong things, but it's difficult to do the right things. But if you do the right things, it seems to always put you in the right position, right? It always puts you where the opportunity to have success is there because you're on the right path. So I like to encourage these kids to, if your parents are telling you to do something, it's because they care about you, because they know that they're setting you up for success, not failure. Your teachers, listen to people who are trying to coach you and give you lessons and things that you're going to need as tools to use in life. And if you do those things, chances are your success rate goes up. Now, I can never tell anybody and promise them that they're going to have success. What I can say is that the probability of you having success goes through the roof.
Well, it turned out pretty good for you.
It
Here in
did.
the gold jacket with your bus behind us.
I can't complain. That guy's kind of handsome back there, by the way.
In your enshrinement speech when you enshrined into the Hall of Fame, you talked about how your character was tested at young as the age of 9.
Yeah.
What were some of those events that kind of tested your character, and how did you take what you learned even at the age of 9 and applied that down the road to your life?
Great question there. A few things. Well, as a kid, you know that we don't always do the right things, and so early on in my life was really kind of, you know, taking things that didn't belong to me, right? We would go to a little liquor store and I wanted something. So instead of asking for it or going to work for it, we'd go into the store, and my brothers and I, we'd go steal candy from the store. And of course, that was not the right thing to do. I mean, if you wanted it, then you go work hard, earn enough money, and then you can buy it. That was one thing. And now I certainly know that even though I might want it a lot, I know that I shouldn't take it. The second thing I would say that really tested my character is when I lost my dad at the age of 13. And that really shaped my entire life, because when I lost my dad, I went from being a kid who I was sort of on the right path. I was going to school, I was getting good grades, and I felt like I was a kid that made my dad proud. Well, when he passed away, my whole life just changed. And I felt like there was no purpose in life anymore. I didn't have him in my life to kind of be there for me. So I ended up hanging out with the wrong crowd, late at night, going to parties at the age of 13 years old, drinking, doing all that stuff that was, again, we talk about being on the right path. I was not on the right path. And I had an incident that happened where I had a shotgun pointed at my head, where a guy, if he had pulled the trigger, obviously I wouldn't be here today. Once I had that experience, then I went back home, and it was a moment of clarity for me, where it said it was God speaking to me through that event. And really it was my dad, who I just lost too, who said, "What are you doing?" And so I changed my entire program after that. I ended up transferring schools. At the time, I stopped playing football because I lost my dad. I ended up getting back into sports, running track, played some football. And then it just became where it just, again, when you're doing things that are right, you know it and you feel better about your life. And it just, the transformation I had after that put me on the path to success. And that's all we want to be on, is on that path. And so I immediately recognized that. And I took ownership of the things that I did. That was the most important thing I did, was I took ownership that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And that's what we have to do. We can't look at other people and blame other people for things that we're doing to ourselves. Number one, accountability is to ourselves. If we're doing something that's not right, we know it, change it, and that's what I did.
A lot of great advice, especially for those students we have watching today. For those of you watching on Facebook Live, please submit your questions in the comment section for Mr. Davis. With that being said, we do have one here. We have a school in Dublin, Ohio. Dublin,
Ohio. What's going on?
Yep, Dublin, Ohio. I said, question is from Tanner. It says, who do you think is the most underrated player in the NFL today?
There's a lot of underrated players, and typically you'll start to look at linemen. They don't get a lot of credit for what they do. But I would say the skill position player would be Alex Smith, a quarterback. And, Alex has been good for a very long time. We tend to look at Alex as a game manager, a quarterback that can't win the big games. But you look at his record, he's a winning quarterback. And last time I checked, having a winning quarterback is not a bad thing. But he doesn't get a lot of respect. And so I'll say Alex Smith is probably the most underrated player.
For a kid from Dublin, that's probably a smart answer with his college coach being Urban Meyer.
Yeah,
so I'm sure that hits home for those students there in Columbus.
Utah, yeah.
So we talk a little bit about your career, and there's ups and downs, ebbs and flows throughout the entire career. But I was doing some research, read a story about the preseason game over in Tokyo. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience, not only playing in another country, but some of the events leading up to that game and how it basically shaped your career moving forward?
Yeah, my career was up and down like anybody else's. When people look at it and they think, you got here, that everything was smooth. And no, it wasn't. But that was what, to me, those events and things like that, when it's not smooth and it's the ebbs and flows, is what builds character. And what makes you who you are. So that event you're talking about was my rookie year in 1995. I was a rookie with the Denver Broncos. And we were in training camp, and we had 2 preseason games. We had 5 preseason games total. But I had a rough training camp. I was a 6th-round draft pick. I wasn't getting a lot of reps in practice. I wasn't getting anything. I was just a 6th-round pick, so I was kind of a scab player, getting some reps here, reps there, but nothing significant. Well, we play our first preseason game, and I didn't play in the first preseason game. I'm thinking, all right, been playing that game, so chances are I'm not going to make this team. I'm not going to make the team because I'm not getting any reps. I don't have a chance to show, what I can do. So it's a foregone conclusion I'm not going to make the squad. We then play our second game in Tokyo, Japan. I fly over there. When we get there, it's pretty hot and humid, and we're down a bunch of running backs. So I go from getting little reps in practice to getting most of the reps because all of our top 3 backs were out. And so now we're practicing against the 49ers in practice, and I have to be in the practice, and I'm exhausted, and I'm making mental mistakes, and I'm just having the worst practice ever. And it's just not a good look. Yeah. After that practice, I'm convinced I'm not going to make the team. So I'm in the hotel room. This is in Japan, by the way. So I call down to the front desk, and I'm trying to get a flight out of there. I'm like, I'm not going to keep putting myself through this. They're going to cut me when we get back to Denver. Anyway, I might as well just quit. My Japanese wasn't that great, so I couldn't communicate with the operator, so I couldn't book the flight out of there. So I said, you know what, that's okay. When I get back to Denver, which was about 3 days, that was a Thursday, and I said in about 3 days, and I'll just quit, go back to Georgia, do something here, work for Coca-Cola, do something. And that was my mind. I was convinced I wasn't going to make the team. Well, the game happened on Saturday, Sunday. And we're in the game first quarter. I don't play. Second quarter, I don't play. So halftime comes, and then we come out in third quarter. All the starters and the second team players, all their pads are off. Everybody's on the sideline having food. They're eating. And I'm starving. So third quarter, we're on the sideline, and I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to play in this game. So I might as well enjoy some food with the fellas. I got over there, ate me some hot dogs, and I'm enjoying my time, and just I'm kind of a spectator on the sideline, and then I get a call from the special teams coach, Rich Smith, and he says, Davis, are you ready to go in? Now he asked me a question, and I wasn't ready to go in, and so I almost thought about saying no, I'm not ready to go in, and because I wasn't prepared, and so but my instinct said yes. Now, mind you, I'm sitting there with a tummy full of hot dogs. I've never been on special teams in that whole preseason, so I don't know what I'm doing. But I go out there, they show me where to line up, ball's kicked off, and I run down the field, and I make a pretty good tackle on the returner. Yeah, I go down and make a tackle on him. And instantly, my teammates came around and congratulated me, and that was kind of the play that was the play that kicked off my career. You know, it was amazing. After that play, then as we go back on offense the next series, the offensive coach comes to me and he says, "You're going in on offense." And again, I'm not prepared. I haven't done a whole lot there. So I remember this. It's turf, but we're on the field. He's got a marker and he's got this, and he's kind of playing backyard football with me, telling me what my assignments are. And I go in, I run the ball about 8 times, I have about 30, 40 yards rushing. But that was it. And I guess the lesson I learned from that was a few things. You know, number one, don't ever quit, right? Don't ever quit. Quitting only guarantees your failure. And if I had said, or actually if I had booked that flight out of Tokyo, I don't know what I'm doing today. I'm certainly not sitting here with this jacket on. So I realized that quitting is not an option. Should never be an option for anybody, no matter what happens, right? If you fail going 100 miles a minute. You fail doing it. And you can say, you know what? I tried it didn't work out, because I don't consider that failure. That's not failure. Failing is when you quit or give up. So that was the one lesson I learned. The other lesson I learned was always be prepared. Always be prepared, even if you don't think you're going to be in a situation. So I've taken that now. So I try to prepare myself for situations that, even if I don't think it's going to happen, I got to prepare for it. And if you're out there as a player, certainly be prepared, because the worst thing can happen is a coach says, "I'm going to you in this game. I want you to come in." And what happens? You're not ready for the moment. You got to be ready for it.
For those of you that have never seen the special teams tackle video,
you got to show it.
Look it up.
Go to YouTube.
It's something special.
Yeah, it's a pretty good. It's a textbook tackle, by the way. It applies to today's football.
Oh yeah.
You know, I got the shoulder on the side, a nice little scoop form tackle, shoulder tackles. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Awesome. So, yeah, so definitely go check that out. One of the reasons he led to wear this gold jacket today. During that, you talked about being a 6th-round draft pick. You see guys today, you know, 1st, 2nd-round picks, these big-name guys coming from these big-name schools. Did being a 6th-round pick leave a sort of chip on your shoulder?
Yeah.
And kind of said, you know what, I need to go out here and prove I should have been that guy taken in the 1st round?
Yeah, I always tell people, just find your motivation, whatever it is. And my motivation was that they picked me in the 6th round. And part of it was you see players and you say, okay, well, I think I measure up to that player, but he's being picked in the 1st round. He's a 2nd-round player. And you take it personal that they're not picking you that high. And I remember my entire career that I wanted to run the race. I wanted to play and be as good as I could be, so that one day I can just say to everybody who just passed on me, how does that feel? How does that feel? Same thing Tom Brady's doing right now. I mean, Brady's held that chip so long that it's incredible that he still has that chip, and it's bigger now than it ever has. And it's hard to hold a chip, to be honest with you. It's difficult, because once you attain success, you start looking at that as, all right, I've kind of proven my point. But if you really want to prove your point, you try to hold on as long as you can. Difficult to do, but I try to have that chip, yeah.
We talked a little bit about, obviously, we're in Atlanta. Super Bowl is here this week on Sunday. Patriots versus the Rams.
Yep.
You played in a few of those big games.
2.
Is there a 2-time champion?
2-time champion, yes.
Is there a specific play that sticks out, or a moment that you remember from either one of those games that is special to your career, or kind of sticks out above all those other highlights that you've had throughout your career?
What was funny, what's interesting is the play that I remember is not the play. I wasn't even involved in the play. The 2 plays I remember, the one play was John Elway, when he did the little helicopter spin, right? That's in my mind. And the reason why that's in my mind is because when he did that, it was 3rd quarter. We were going in to score, and we needed that 3rd down was huge. We couldn't settle for field goals against Green Bay, and we knew that. We had to score touchdowns. So it's pivotal that when he did that, it was 3rd and 4 or something like that. Once he did that, to me, that was the moment where I realized we're going to win this game. I don't know why. When I saw it, I said, we are going to win this game. Because if John can do that, and he's playing like that, I can't give any less.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And it was just a sign that, okay, that was a play that we're going to look back and want to say that was kind of it signified, the game. It was kind of a pivotal moment in that game. And so anyway, I remember that play a lot. I remember and then John Mobley knocking down the pass at the end from Brett Favre. He was trying to go to Tremere. He was trying to throw the pass. It was 4th down. We needed them to stop that. And it was the last play of the game for our defense. And when he knocked the ball down, that was it. That was the moment where that's it. There's no more football to be played. We had 1-0 down, but that was it. It was like it's it. It was a culmination of the entire season of working hard, training camp. It was it. It was like there was no other game to be played after that because you have won the whole thing. And it was truly a special moment. And then I had some other moments with me, but they weren't great moments. Like I fumbled the ball. I didn't like that. I fumbled the ball coming out from the half. And I was, because I had a migraine headache in that game. We would talk about that too. I had a migraine headache and I missed the entire second quarter. I came out and the whole halftime, I'm in the locker room taking medication, trying to get back. And I come back in. The first play of the game to give me the ball, and I fumble. And in my mind, I'm thinking that play could have cost our team. That could have cost us that whole game. And you don't ever want to be that player that has a play like that, where you look back on, they show Super Bowls, they show the highlights, and they show that play in the highlight, and your team lost the game. So I felt really bad about that. But I was fortunately able to overcome that and we won.
Now, one of the questions we like to ask, especially to the Super Bowl champions who do end up being Gold Jackets, is if you had the chance, would you trade your Hall of Fame ring of excellence
I knew you were going to ask that question.
for another Super Bowl ring? Give you 3.
No, I like things just the way they are.
All right, we get that answer a lot.
Yeah, because they're different. They're different, and without this, I felt like my career didn't have an ending to it. It didn't have. It wasn't a final chapter.
No, like walk off.
There was no walk off.
Bettis won the Super Bowl, retired, Hall of Fame.
Like they would always have that sort of ending where it just, you watch a movie, you're like, oh, how did it end? And you don't know how it ended. And for my career, I realized once I got this, that's what it was for me. It was finite. It was okay. It was the ending to a career. And I never thought about my jacket, that much. But once I got it, I realized how important it was to me, and how much I really respect it and I honor it. And I'm just blessed and just humbled by it. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm thankful and grateful. But I kind of like the jacket. I kind of like the guy back there. I kind of like the ring. So Super Bowls are great. Taking nothing away from Super Bowls, but I have two. So I don't want to be too greedy.
So you talk about the 3 iconic pieces you just mentioned. You get the Haggard gold jacket, the K Jewelers ring of excellence, and then the bronze bust that'll last in Canton for over 40,000 years. One of only 318 of the best.
That's interesting. You said 40. You said 40,000 years.
40,000 years.
So in 40,000 years, are we going to check to make sure these things are still here?
Somebody will. We'll leave a note for somebody.
I want to make sure that they're here in 40,000 years. All right. Anyway.
But it is a huge honor. So for the time you've been a Gold Jacket, been a Hall of Famer, what kind of has been the coolest moment for you, or what kind of sticks out about maybe coming back to Canton for an enshrinement that you only get to do because you're a Hall of Famer? What kind of is that moment for you?
The moment was being in Canton. That was the moment. And it wasn't just me being in Canton. It was my family being there, my friends, my teammates, my coaches, mentors. That to me was it, because they got a chance to experience Canton, which they probably would have never gone had I not been there. But not only enjoyed in a way where they get to see history of the sport, but now you have somebody who somebody that you've placed your hand on, and you had something to do with that person's success. And I'm telling you, for me, hearing the stories, my family, and how excited they were to be there, that's what it's all about. It's about sharing that moment with them. And so that whole week was phenomenal. It was a fantastic week. I still, even like friends that went, that's all they talk about. And we always sit back and we'll just, reminisce about that week, and they were able to see more than I was, because I was doing all over. And so they were telling me about the players they met and when they met them and how they had these things going on, showing me pictures and videos. And so that's what it's about for me. It's about family, and it's about close family, friends, and just experiencing that with them.
Now you do have some close ties to, Saturday is we have 18 guys here who are waiting for that knock on the door that you got to be announced that they're the class of 2019. Yeah. So we have Steve Atwater, who's a Bronco, and then Pat Boland. What would it mean not only to you as a player, but to the Broncos, anyone who's played for the Broncos and the entire organization, for Pat Bowlen to be that next guy, that next Bronco in the Hall of Fame?
Huge. When I say huge, it's huge because Pat represents, as a player, I represent a certain, I guess, span with the Broncos history. John Elway, as great as he was, a certain span in Broncos history. But Pat Bowlen, not only did he place his hands on the players, but the city of Denver, the NFL, what he meant as an owner, what he meant to me as an owner, what he meant just in the pantheon of just football and sports, truly one of the most remarkable owners out there. He doesn't get a lot of credit for it because he doesn't want it. Never raised his hand saying, hey, look at me, I want to be owner known for this. He made sure that he put together the best team. He made sure that he treated his players like family. He made sure he had the assets, everything you wanted to be successful, Pat gave you. That's what he was all about. And he one of the most winningest franchises in sports. I mean, so it would mean a lot to have him in because we, Bronco fans, we know for a long time we've been shortchanged. We've been shortchanged a little bit. So I think we're gaining some momentum now, and it would be great to see him get in.
Back to here, we got another question from Facebook. Actually, this one's coming all the way over from the UK.
The UK.
Who were your idols growing up, both maybe on or off the field?
Okay, idols. All right, on the field, Marcus Allen. And the reason why Marcus grew up in San Diego, Marcus grew up in my neighborhood, and he went to Lincoln High. He played for Valencia Park Pop Warner, which is a Pop Warner that I eventually played for. He went to Lincoln High School. I went to Lincoln High School. And for some reason, I felt like I watched Marcus play when he was in high school, but I couldn't because he was much older than me. But his name just like it stayed around San Diego so long that you felt like he was there. Then he went to USC, watched him at USC, but Marcus was a quarterback in high school. So Marcus Allen was definitely one player that I worshiped on the field. Off the field, there are a few people. One was my mentor. His name is Frank White, and he was my Pop Warner coach for a very long time. And when my dad passed away when I was 13, I had all these people take over. So Frank White took over. My head coach at Lincoln High School, his name was a big player who actually coached Marcus. So he was my idol because he not only was he my football coach, but he was my history teacher. And I remember just the things. He was a super smart man, and he was very disciplined. And he just had that way with players, and he demanded a lot from you. He wouldn't. There is no shortcut in him. There is no trying to buddy him. He led really with kind of firmness that I respected because my dad was like that. But those two guys, big players, and that Charlie Polk was our hall monitor. Roy Reed was an assistant coach. I had a lot of male figures that I kind of looked up to that kind of kept me straight after I had my incident. Once my dad passed away, I was on the straight and narrow with a lot of people.
So now right here, we got actually questions from some of the Broncos community.
What's up, Broncos?
Staff.
There you go.
Why was it important for you to be a leader in the community during your time with the Broncos and in Denver?
Well, it was important because here's why it's important for anybody, not only me. But once you attain a certain level of success, I call this sort of the rope theory. It's responsibility, obligation, pressure, and expectations. We don't typically say we want to do those things, but it's part of what comes with the job. So as a player, once I got to a certain point, I realized that I had expectations and I was obligated to give back to the community. Is that my phone? It's probably my wife calling me right in the middle of my interview. It wasn't my wife. So I don't even know. But back to my, so part of it is that you have to give back. Like once you obtain something, you can't, and that's the way it's the pay it forward type mentality. It's you have to give back because people were giving back to me once they reached that level of success. Marcus was giving back. My head coach in high school. So I realized when I saw people around me and what they were doing, once they've obtained that level, then I have to do that. I had to commit myself to doing the same thing because I want to be a good role model for the next generation coming up, for somebody who sees me, who says, oh, I want to be like TD on the field, but realize that there's other things that are required off the field that we all have to do.
You talk about, and I'm glad you said it's being like TD on the field. As we know, everyone's probably seen the story. Philip Lindsay, rookie sensation this year for the Denver Broncos, and the story and the connections between you and him coming to you, asking if he can wear the number 30 and be there in the Broncos backfield. So for you, what did that mean as not only as a former player, but maybe as a mentor? And then what was it like to kind of see that number 30 back in the Broncos backfield?
Yeah, it was when he asked me for it, I had to hear why, and so we talked on the phone. And so I, found a way, and we connected and got on the phone and talked. And I asked him, like, so why do you want to, wear my number? And for about 20 minutes, I got a chance to hear him talk. I can tell you, I was so impressed with the way he was on the phone call that afterwards I felt honored. I was like, okay, hey, you can wear 30. Because for me, it was a young man who went through the same thing I was going through. Guy that was doubted, didn't get drafted, didn't go to the combine. People told him what he couldn't do rather than what he could do. And he found a way to make the team. And then before I'd already watched him in training camp, and I watched him in mini camp, so I knew he was pretty good. I knew he was catching the coach's eye, and so I was like, okay. And I felt it was easy to give the number to somebody who was a first-round pick. That's easy because you expect him to be good. Yeah. But to have somebody with that number, to me, the number represented the underdog. The guy who was fighting to make the squad, the guy that people said that wouldn't be any good. He was against all the different, measurables. He's 5'8", 180 pounds, halfback. So I was like, once we got off the phone, I felt like it was right. If something spoke to me, God spoke to me, and I felt it was right to give him that number.
We talked about two other players who are actually playing this weekend that you have a pretty good connection with. We have Todd Gurley with the Rams and then Sony Michel with the Patriots, both running backs in the same backfield. That's right. Which is hard to believe there at Georgia. So what is your relationship?
Don't forget Nick Chubb too, but he's not in the game. Yeah, that's great backfield.
Pretty good backfield coming out of the Georgia. So being those guys and being able to talk to them and mentor them, what does it mean to you to see those guys at the top of their game going into Sunday Super Bowl 53?
It's you're proud of them because you saw them when they were freshmen at Georgia. You saw their story. You saw how they ascended to this level. I mean, and it wasn't easy. There were struggles along the way, and now they've reached their goals. And so I'm always happy for them, and I love to see them do well. And we stay in communication, and you try not to get in their way. You try to let them develop into who they're going to be. But games like this, I don't know. I mean, you can't root for one. I root for both of them to play well. Yep. That's what I do. So I'm not rooting for any team to do well, but I do certainly wish that both of them play extremely well because it not only represents them and their families, but it represents the University of Georgia, and we're pretty proud about our running backs in Georgia. So
I'm going to go back to another question here from Facebook. This one's from Jessica. How did you fall in love with the game of football?
All right, that's a great question. That is an awesome question, Jessica, because football, I didn't fall in love with it when I was little. I hated it, as a matter of fact. Because the first year, I'm telling you, the moment it happened, my first year playing football, they put me on the line. I was an offensive guard. And, man, they put me on the guard. And the way they chose, like, the skill position players, it was based off speed. They lined us all up, and they made us run these gassers. And the fastest kids, they put at running back and, wide receiver. And the slowest kids, me, they put me on the line, me and my brother. And I played offensive line for a year. And I hated it, but what I did was I was real physical. And I was so physical that the coaches, over the year, I kept asking coach, I'm like, I want to play running back. And they were like, no, you can't play running back. But I said, okay. So I started playing guard. Instead of hating it, which I didn't like, I found a way just to do it well. Yeah. Until I had a chance to play running back. And I did it so well, I was pretty physical. So the last game of the year, the coach finally gave in. And he was like, okay, we don't put you at running back because they knew I was pretty physical. They put me at running back, and I don't know. We didn't keep stats back then, but I felt like I had 5 touchdowns. I felt like I ran for about 300 yards. I had a huge game, and that was the start of me being a running back. And the next year I played a running back, and I became one of the best backs in San Diego the next couple of years, and that's when the love for the game just was there. I played baseball, played basketball. They didn't grab me like football, but football, I loved it. I loved everything about it. I remember the first time we put on our pads, and I came home with the pads. I had my mouthpiece on. I was at the dinner table, and I wouldn't take my pads off. I would take dinner. I loved it.
You mentioned playing multiple sports, baseball, basketball, but then we know for your track career as well. How did playing those sports kind of help you become a better football player, but also a better athlete in all the other sports that you played? Was there some relationship between all those?
Yeah, well, not only different sports, but different positions in football. So again, I wasn't great at the other sports. Baseball, I played 2 years. I don't think I had one ball in 2 years. I was swinging at everything. Basketball, I would play basketball, pick up basketball a lot around the house. I never played organized basketball at all. But the explosion in basketball, the lateral movement in basketball, I think helps out with that. I played soccer. I was really good at soccer. I love soccer. Soccer helped me with my foot, the quickness that I did have. Wasn't a lot of quickness. And I just think multiple sports develop different things on your body. And I'm a big fan of putting kids in cross sports. I have 3 kids now, 8, 6, and 4. And I try to encourage my kids to play all sports, not just to lump them into one thing that they love, because I certainly believe that not only do you gain different physical skills from different sports, but I think the time off serves you mentally well to get off your sport for a while and have some mental recycling to another sport. So I'm all for it. If you're struggling out there and if you're a basketball and football player or something like that, and you're struggling with, should I play multiple sports or stick to one? Multiple sports. I know nowadays that some of these clubs they try to punish you for not playing year round, but I'm more just go play different sports, man, because you never know.
Like you said, it's a good break.
It's good
to
to
get out of the playbook a little bit, get off the gridiron, and kind of take some other stuff on. Like you said, give your mind a good break with that.
Helps me out.
Talk a little bit about you going through your career, obviously the greatest running back of all time. We talked a little bit about some of those guys from Georgia. Are one of those guys, do you see yourself in any of them, or is there a running back in today's game you kind of see your playing style or your running style in?
It's a really good question, because and the answer is I don't, and I think part of it is that I think running backs are like fingerprints.
Yes.
They are. They're really. There's no two alike. They're all different, just like we're all different. And I have yet to see anybody that looks like me. And not to say that that's a bad thing. I just have never seen anybody who runs like me. We try to make comparisons every year. Who does he remind you of?
Who's the next?
That? I watch them all. I've never looked at him back and say, you know what, he looks like me when he runs. And so, I haven't seen that back yet.
Another question here, again from Jessica. This is her middle school class is watching.
Oh,
so this question here is from Cade, who would love to know who or what inspired you to keep going, and how has that led to where you are now?
Excellent question. So who inspired me to keep going was my dad. So my dad, the way I was raised with the sort of, you fall down, he's not going to help you up. Mm-hmm. You have to find a way to pick yourself up. And as a kid, it's hard to get through that when you fall down. And I don't mean in a literal sense. I mean, if you stumble, if you fail, my dad was not there to collar you and say, hey, pat you on the back. He made you look around to see, okay, well, no one's going to help me get up, so I got to find a way to get myself up. After I developed that over the years, you realize that, okay, the only person that really matters that's going to help you is you. You have a supporting cast from a lot of people, but you don't depend on other people. Your dependence need to be on self-independence, where and I found a way to be, I internalize a lot of things. In sports, what happens is, and this is where it pays dividends. In sports, ebbs and flows. You have moments where you're winning a game 1 second, next second you're losing. And so it's an emotional roller coaster. You've got to deal with that, find a way how to deal with the emotional roller coaster. And the way I chose to deal with it was that people think that I'm nonchalant, they think I don't care. Well, I care, but the only way I can deal with all these emotional roller coasters, I have to keep an even keel. I can't get too excited when things happen. Great. I can't get too down when things are not happening the way I want them to happen. So that became sort of the way I dealt with those things and how I eventually learned how to pick myself up and get over those things. But my dad started that. My dad instilled in me that you have to be tough. This world's going to be tougher on you than I can. My dad tried to be tougher on us than the world can ever be on us. And it's amazing how when I'm as an adult, things will happen, and I'll look at my dad. I'm like, oh, that's what my dad prepared me for. Was this moment? And so that's what got me kind of fighting through those things.
What would you say is the biggest life lesson you took away from playing football? Something that helps you both on the field and what we like to call, your game for life off the field. What was that biggest lesson that sticks out to you?
Oh, so many lessons in football. There's so many lessons. I guess the lesson is it's really about, it's kind of a courage lesson. It's kind of doing things that surrounds, you might not be able to do it, or if football is all about there's guys across the ball who are bigger, stronger, faster than you are. If I get the football and this Junior Seau in front of me, now chances are I can't run Junior Seau over, but I gotta think I can run Junior over. And that's what it is. It's really the mind. It's really how the mind has to be strong and to will you through whatever it is you're dealing with, whether that's in business, whether that's a personal life, whether it's in sports. And I've taken that mentally strong, or I call it mental fitness. That's what sports prepared me for. Was I had to be mentally strong to survive in that environment where you're getting hit 30 times a game and I don't feel like being hit anymore, and I'm tired, and I have broken fingers, and I got a separated shoulder, and my knees are hurting, and I'm telling myself there's no way I can run this ball. No way I can do this. But I also got to say, my mind has to say, yes, you can do it. And so I lean on that mental part of it a whole lot. And so the mental toughness, the mental fitness I would say that's probably the one thing I take away from it.
We got time for a few more here.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to Facebook here. A question from Jason. He said, what is the Broncos record that you hold that you would be most proud of?
Hey, that's a good question. I guess the question would be, which records do I hold? That I hold that I'll be most proud of.
Or is there maybe a moment that when you were Bronco, we talked a little bit about the Super Bowl, but outside of those big game moments, was there something maybe in like week 2 or week 3 from some season that stands out to you, or maybe was a career-changing moment?
Yeah, there's a lot. That's what I'm trying to.
It's hard to compare to Super Bowl rings, yeah.
But I'm gonna go back to the one he talked to. He said a Broncos record. The record that I would be proud. I don't know if I have this or not, so I can't say it. But would be the fumble record, right? So if there was like 400 and something consecutive carries with no fumble, and people are like, well, no, it's not, because you know what that tells me? That I was reliable. I was like, yeah. I mean, not most backs, but a lot of backs, they get in trouble not because they're not talented, but because they fumble the ball a lot, and then the coaches don't trust them, so they don't put them in the game. But that's one. It's kind of one of those secret things. I'm like, okay, but yeah, if I had that record, that would be a cool one to have. I doubt I have it though.
Just a couple more here. So we are in Atlanta, home of the Super Bowl. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask.
Yes.
Sunday. Do you have a prediction for the game and maybe who the MVP is going to be?
So I do a show every Friday. Okay. It's called Pick'em on the NFL Network, and so I don't tell people who I'm going to.
Don't want to spoil it.
Until Friday. But I would tell you this: this is the most difficult Super Bowl I had to pick in quite some time. On both sides of the ball, it's difficult. We know what the Patriots bring. They're just, even if you say, all right, their defense, you can't name a lot of players on their defense, but they're not the defense that's going to shut you out. But they seem to make the play when the play needs to be made. That's what they're known for, and they can trick you and make you make some uncharacteristic mistakes. Of course, the Rams are, you would say they're probably the more talented team, right? Aaron Donald, Sue on the defensive line, you like them. Obviously, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters in the secondary. The defense, coached by Wade Phillips. So you feel like they should be able to have some chances in this game. But I don't know. This one is
something about Brady and Belichick just in this game. It's hard to even go against them.
They go against everything that you would when you're breaking down on a tape or you're preparing for a show, and you look at the matchup, and you say, okay, this matchup favors this team, not the Pages. This team, this team, this team. And somehow when the game is played, it doesn't matter, because what their matchups are is head coach, is quarterback who's been there, a quarterback that just finds a way that he is going to, if he has to outgun you and shoot and throws for 500 yards, he can do that. If they need to run the ball with Sony and James White and Rex Burkhead and James Devlin, they can do that. They morph into a team that is hard to really put, kind of peg what they're going to bring this Sunday. But all I can say is I'm excited about it. It's a hard one to pick, but I'll let you know on Friday.
All right.
Pick 'em show. Please watch it.
All right, you guys watch that on Friday. We've had some people doing some research for us on here.
Okay.
Say your records that you hold, you got the all-time leading rusher,
Okay.
as well as rushing touchdowns.
That's it.
Nothing about the fumbles yet.
That's it. No fumbles. I was a fumbler.
Guys, just got a few minutes here, so
All
we'll
right.
wrap up with this last question, and it's probably my favorite one. Obviously, we got a bunch of schools tuned in today. Weather here didn't allow them to come in here today, but we
Yeah,
have a
that's a
lot of
bummer.
schools and a lot of kids tuned in today. So if you could give those kids watching one piece of advice, or maybe one piece of advice you wish you had as a kid, what would that piece of advice be?
My piece of advice for you kids who are watching this show is, listen, I want you to dream as big as you can dream. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and what you cannot do. The one thing that kills a dream is doubt, and other people who try to look at your dream and say, that's too big. Why are you thinking like that? What I found out is it's possible until it isn't possible. So keep dreaming, keep thinking as big as you can, do what you have to do to pursue that dream. And that's what I would tell you. It's simple, but it's not simple. But I want you guys to keep that in mind.
I couldn't think of a better way to wrap up the program today. I want to thank you. We have Terrell Davis, class of 2017, Pro Football Hall of Famer, Gold Jacket here in Atlanta. Thank you for participating. I want to thank you not only from me, but from all of our Hall of Fame staff there in Canton, all the way up to David Baker, president of the Hall of Fame. So again, thank you for participating today, and enjoy your week. Remember, Friday, tune in, see who you pick.
Tune in.
Mile High Salute to end
Salute
this.
you.
All right, thank you, everybody,
All right.
and we'll see you during our next installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, part of a Hall of Famer.
Thanks, Jake.
No problem. Thank
All
you.
right.